start out with committee reports. I believe that the Community Engagement Committee met, July 19th?
Yes.
Would you like to give an update?
We did meet, and we just basically went over the calendar for the Citizen for the next year. The articles that we are going to be writing and getting back on track the way we used to be years ago when they used to run them all the time. So we made a calendar what we were going to be writing about, and that's what we met about.
Thank you. And correspondence to the board.
Yes, I have two correspondence to the board. Berlin Board of Education and staff, thank you for the beautiful potted greens that you sent in sympathy of my mom. It was kind of you to think of me and my family during these difficult times. Sincerely, Paula Brown. Paula's at McGee. Second communication, dear Mr. Benigni and Board of Education, I want to thank you for the lovely dinner and gift for recognizing my retirement. The work that you and staff and the members is so important. I am proud to have been part of the Berlin Public Schools for 38 years. The crystal bowl triggers many wonderful memories whenever I look at it. Thank you for your thoughtfulness. Susan Terrell, retired French and Spanish teacher at Berlin High School.
Right. Moving into audience of citizens, is there anyone that would like to approach the board? Okay, so moving into our next agenda item, personnel, we have two anticipated administrative appointments. So the first one is for the Dean of Students for Emma Hart Willard School. The board just finished the interview. I was part of the interview committee for that. Melissa was as well. And it went through several rounds, and the board just met with Danielle Salina. Is there a motion for consideration?
I'll move that the Board of Education appoint Danielle Salina to the position of Dean of Students at Emma Hart Willard School with the effective date tentatively set for September 5th, 2023.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So the motion by Carrie, second by Jamie. Any discussion?
Congratulations.
Oh, we have to vote first. Wait. Little premature. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Aye. So the vote is 7 in favor.
One absent.
7 in.
2 abstentions.
Oh,
'Cause he wasn't
okay,
here.
perfect.
Oh,
I'm
that's
sorry,
right,
I didn't
yeah,
get
okay.
yours, yes. So 2 abstentions, 6 in favor. All right,
Now
so
saying
the motion carries. Congratulations. All right.
I know I wouldn't let Adam get away with that, just so you know.
Okay, and moving on to the supervisor of special education for the secondary level, and that was the second interview that the board just held. So do we have a motion for consideration for Jenna DeRosa?
I'll move that the Board of Education appoint Jenna DeRosa to the position of Supervisor of Special Education, Secondary, with an effective date to be determined.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Carrie, second by Adam. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? Abstaining? 1, 2, 3. So 5 in favor, 0 opposed, 3 abstaining. Okay, so the motion carries, and congratulations. Okay, so exciting night here. Moving on, is there anything that anyone would you like to say a few words before we move on?
If you'd like me to.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So I want to congratulate both of you for going through what I consider a rigorous process in front of those that you'll be working with, in front of other colleagues of the Administrative Council, and with myself, with your lead administrators in your respective departments, and then tonight with the Board of Education. So congratulations, and I think you'll do a wonderful job, so welcome aboard.
Welcome, congratulations. All right, moving on to the next item, we have a retirement. Do we have a motion for consideration?
I move to accept the retirement of Rosina Marquis, teacher of kindergarten at Mary E. Griswold School, effective June 30th, 2024. Also to thank her for her 18 years of service she has provided to the youth of Berlin, and wish her good health and happiness in her retirement years.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, but, who was first? Matt, okay. Any discussion?
Knowing Rosina personally over the years, she's been more than just a teacher at Griswold. Her involvement with the community and with all of the youth, having 2 children that went through the school district, has been immeasurable. Rosina is definitely a force at Griswold and an anchor in working with the children, but also the mentor she's been to new staff and things at the school. She'll be deeply missed, but we wish her the best in her retirement. So congratulations, Rosina.
Thank you. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so that is 8-0. Moving on to the next retirement for Cindy Martin, Supervisor of Special Education, secondary level. Do we have a motion for consideration?
I'll move to accept the retirement of Cindy Martin, Supervisor of Special Education, Secondary, effective August 18, 2023. Also to thank her for the 7 years of service she has provided to the youth of Berlin and wish her good health and happiness in her retirement years.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Carrie. Any discussion?
Just to thank Cindy for her years working as the secondary supervisor. Cindy said I could share this, but Cindy is retiring, but she's not really retiring. Cindy has taken a position in the private sector, working with the school that we actually do have a student at. So she'll be continuing to work, just that she'll be working in the private sector. So congratulations, Cindy, and thank you for all you've done for Berlin.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the vote is 8-0. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for consideration?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So the motion by Carrie, second by Matt. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, vote carries 8-0. Now moving on to new business, so I'm gonna turn this over to the superintendent's report for the district readiness for the opening of schools.
Thank you. So we opened last week on Thursday with students. This year we have 2,675 students with 8 students waiting to be enrolled. So similar last year we were at 2,682 students. So our population is about the same, consistent both years. So if you hear that it's going down, it's not really going down. We are flattening out as the report shared. As far as the readiness of the schools, I can say in my 31 years in the district, all schools look amazing. The floors, the cleanliness, they did an outstanding job, the custodian staff. And being short custodians, we've been short a head custodian for over 4 months. We're right now short 3 custodians. They still manage to do a wonderful job. So a lot of credit goes to the custodians for taking care of the buildings. In particular, if I can mention, Griswold School, relatively new head custodian. It just looks fantastic. And McGee, with Ash, who also supervises the high school, the McGee looks great also. But all the buildings look fantastic. So the readiness there. As far as staffing readiness, I'm very pleased, as I said at convocation. We're still very fortunate in Berlin to attract highly qualified candidates from other districts. Many districts have huge holes to fill to start a school. We are at a point where we have 3 positions, and 2 of them hope to fill by tomorrow, and that includes certified and non-certified staff. At this time, we only have 1 paraprofessional, special education paraprofessional that's needed, which is amazing. I interviewed a special education teacher who is coming from a neighboring town after 12 or 13 years there with 20 years experience that said, I don't always see an opening in Berlin. I'd really like to be there. And the person resides in Berlin. So we're still, obviously, as I said to you at the retreat, we don't, and at this market really can't put a level on where we can hire. We hire the best candidate, but to be able to attract a special education candidate at this juncture is fantastic. So I couldn't be more pleased, and I think it speaks to the credibility of the district in the state and people still wanting to come here to work because of the environment and how they're treated. And the other part is the working conditions that you help to support with the resources, the technology they have, the classrooms, the air conditioning, and so on, even if some of our portable units at this time. But I think it was a smooth opening. As I said at the retreat, convocation, the student skit they put together, I think that speaks to the culture of the district. It was a skit with myself and each lead administrator at each building, and to have them put that skit on with all of us in the room, and to have the entire staff there with them laughing and jesting, I think that speaks to the culture. And the staff came in very eager. It was much different than last year. I think people got a chance to pull back and reflect and recharge themselves in a proper manner this summer. And it's been a smooth, knock on wood, 3 days with students, and staff started last week. So I think we're in a good spot.
Thank you. And that including your staffing update?
The staffing update I gave you there, also, it's a little small, but it's in your packet. Those are the positions that are there. I just want to, share that we were asked, you might want to share, you want me to share?
You can share.
Julia was asked, and I was CC'd by the chair of the Board of Finance, Sal Bordenero. He'd like to know all the positions we hired, what they cost, what's the differential between what we have budgeted and what number we came in at the 3.6
As
increase.
well as why there's 21 open positions on the website. We have yet to respond because I have to prepare a response, and I've been busy preparing for my school year, so we will get back to him at some point, and I will make sure to CC the entire board on the response, but
I can share that there are no new positions. The K position that we kept in the budget last year, we needed to add that position at Griswold. The class size would have been up over 20 in the kindergarten. The only position that's relatively new that's posted, that's new, is an IT position. We just can't keep up with keeping the devices and things going. And we felt, based on how we hired, as far as what level we hired at, that we had the funding to do that. So other than that, they're all replacements. Every position is a replacement for a retiree or a position that we had. There's nothing new in the staffing list.
to your point, though, just before I came here, I was, the news was on today, and they had, a city nearby saying that there is over 100 openings and schools just starting. So I know that we are in a really good position with staffing in comparison to other towns and cities.
Well, I just think that oftentimes, you as a board or myself get criticized for spending of the money and how we spend it, but I think there's something to be said about being able to attract and retain highly qualified educators in a market that's very difficult right now. And I think that speaks to, the district and what you've done and what you've supported over the years as a board. So thank you for that.
All right, well, thank you. And the final financial report, turn it over to Ashley.
Hello. So usually, I'm changing the format of this a little bit, making it more of a presentation, because usually the past few years I kind of just talk at you, and sometimes it's hard to follow. So, of course, 2023's fiscal school year, it wasn't without its challenges. We still had a lot of inflation. I had to do a third quarter budget freeze again, similar to the previous school year, which didn't really make my building administrators too happy, because there was a time where I was a little nervous and just pumping the brakes, telling Brian, I don't know if we're going to make it. Fortunately, we were able to realize some savings in some other operational categories that we were able to reallocate into other categories and that we needed to do. So what this, the 443,000, what that number represents is the unallocated funds that we have after we cleaned up all of our negative balances for other operational spending like salaries and utilities. Overall, it comes in a little less than 1%. So next I'm going to kind of talk you through where the surplus or savings areas come from. So of course, benefits was one. The biggest driver there was the pension. And you saw during our whole budget season how I readjusted how to calculate pension specifically for non-certified staff, more specifically the paras. In the past, we always budgeted for every single para to receive pension benefits, when realistically, they don't all participate. So this year we changed that formula to only include the paras that are actively on plan. And then we also had some savings in unemployment. Again, we're still working off of the COVID credits from unemployment, so we didn't have any expenditures in our unemployment line. Contracted services, we had some good news there. The copier contract, which you approved last spring, was actually settled after we had established the budget. And as you know, that we had significant savings in that contract as well, because we bought out the lease, so we no longer had to be paying for that. And then our legal fees. We didn't have any major negotiations last year, so we saved substantially in legal fees. Transportation. So there's two main drivers for transportation. Tuition and transportation both saw some good news with the excess cost reimbursement. So this goes back again through the budget season. At the time when we were establishing the budget, we established a rate of 70% reimbursement rate. And then after the budget was passed, the state passed a new law, and we actually received 76.5%. And then we always get a little bit more in the end. It's just the way excess cost usually runs. So we had some good news, and that impacted both transportation and tuition line. The other piece of transportation was our tech school services. Last year, we saw a significant decrease in the number of students attending the tech school services, not necessarily attending tech schools, the number of kids that required transportation to the tech schools, which we kind of accounted for when we were doing the budget season, and then we had to do in our last meeting, we centralized our stops because that has since then increased again. A lot of freshmen are going to tech schools. And then tuition for magnet schools. When we did the budget in the previous year, it was anticipated that CREC Magnet would increase by 12%, and they didn't. They came in about 4.5% to 6%, depending on the services that they needed. And plus, we also had a handful of students return to us, which is ultimately the goal. We want kids coming to the Berlin Public Schools. So those are our surplus and savings drivers.
Can I just ask a question?
You may.
So the magnet school tuition did not go up 12% last year. What about this year?
This year, we haven't gotten the rates yet, but typically it's been around 4.5% to 6%. My guess is going to be 4% this year. Yeah. Yep.
Why such a big jump? You said typically it's like 4%. Why was it 12% projected?
So that was just the projected increase that they were throwing the number around at the beginning of the budget season. That was the information that we had from people who are the coordinators of the CREC magnets.
Okay.
And I believe it stemmed from not having an increase for 3 previous years.
They were lobbying
Okay.
hard for 12%.
Yeah, because that's like
Because
4% to
Right,
12%.
Because they had an
That's
increase for 3 years, they were anticipating it's 4 a year, no increase, 12% is what they were pushing for, but that didn't hold.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
So now on to the good stuff. Where did we spend it? So our year-end priorities were in classroom technology, student and staff technology, and classroom furniture. So these are the 3 categories that typically always get cut in the first round of budget prep. At the end of the year, we meet with the FNL. We prioritize the wish list, essentially, where everybody who puts in things at the beginning of the year, and then also anybody who wants to put something in the budget for the upcoming year, anything that we have to cut to get to the number at the end of the budget season, we prioritize that. So for classroom technology, we were able to secure projectors and whiteboards district-wide. BHS was the tech ed labs, the science labs, and the math rooms. All first grade elementary schools got new projectors and first grade elementary entry. I said it right the first time, I'm sorry. First grade classrooms all received new projectors and whiteboards, and then we replaced about 10 whiteboards and projectors at the middle school level. The TriCaster and the weather station, that's been on the books for several years. We were finally able to fund that, and that is at the BHS TV station. And then back-end storage, and that is district-wide for servers and G Suite backups. Next is the student and staff technology. We were able to secure Chromebooks for BHS 9th graders and McGee 6th graders. Laptops, we secured about 50 laptops for incoming staff, which is only about half of what we asked for. So moving forward, we still do have a deficit for staff laptops. And then iPads, those were replaced district-wide for all 2nd grade classrooms, including a handful of spares and about 30 staff iPads. as far as classroom equipment, we replaced about 2.5 classrooms, furnitures over at McGee Middle School in the ELA and social studies classrooms. And then we were able to move forward with our allied health room, purchasing classroom equipment and furniture for the allied health career pathways program. So that's about it. This is our general fund. Any questions?
Ashley, thank you for that, because
Yeah.
that was very well done, made perfect sense. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is the Allied Health being offered this year?
Yes.
Sorry, I was looking for Eileen Hall. Sorry. New year, new face, yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Ashley? Thank you for putting that together.
Yeah, no
That was
problem.
really helpful.
No problem.
Okay. Moving on to the Chase Anderson bench placement at Berlin High School. So in Schoology, there is a picture of where the bench will be located, but a bench is being donated for placement at BHS in honor of Chase Anderson. An appropriate location has been determined by Principal Amenda and Security, Safety, and Residency Director John Schmaltz. A photo has been posted in Schoology, like I just said. That photo is it, but it's upside down.
This is a better photo. The one taken by John Schmaltz, our security director, came on an angle. So I went over this afternoon and took a direct photo, so you can see
Okay.
the bench will be placed. I didn't take it upside down though.
Doing a handstand. So you can imagine what it would look like.
But it's going to be, Nick, if you put the regular photo.
I don't know what Charles Prest over here.
Right,
I don't even know that's an
rotate.
option.
But if you look at the front, I can
Okay.
explain. In the front of the building, you can see that there is a concrete slab. It won't be on the concrete slab. It'll be in between the two trees on the grass, so that, you know, it's off where the snow removal is. It's not right in front of the windows. And it's more of a peaceful area where if a student was waiting for a bus or whatever to get picked up, they could sit in there. So that was the original, but that's looking down. The other one's upside down. That's where it's going to go. You got the location.
Did we spend all of our tech money already? Okay.
So if you could spin the other one, then you can see.
Okay, so before we get into discussion around this, do we have a motion for consideration?
I'll make a motion that we approve the location of the Chase Anderson Memorial Bench at Berlin High School as presented.
Do we have a second? Motion by Adam, second by Carrie. Now I can open it up for discussion. No?
Well, I'm just gonna wait for the top.
We're just
So
waiting
we're
for the-
looking at the grass area.
Grass area, this
Yep.
is what we're looking at. And there's two trees, that small
Yep.
trees, that would go right in between the two trees. See the trees, you can see what's getting on it. And the pole there, yes, that's where it goes, so.
I
If,
agree.
if, my understanding is though, if I could just make this.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I didn't know Chase personally, but I did get an opportunity to speak to his aunt, who works in the building, and speak to Mom. And my understanding of this picture being upside down is Chase. And so I hope that Mom's watching the board meeting or sees it, and Aunt Leah, and you know, this picture not being turned upside down is Chase getting his last laugh with us. But in all seriousness, a very sad event that took place last year. I think it's a great way to memorialize Chase in a very peaceful setting that students will enjoy a bench in front of the building in the grass right by the trees. So I think the location is perfect. It's a great way to honor him.
Really great. Anyone else have anything they want to discuss? Well, I will certainly report back to the people I've been communicating with who've been contacting me about this. I'll let them know tonight that it is up on the board meeting. And I think this is a really special way to honor Chase and, you know, create a special space at the school. So, awful event, but, you know, if this is something special we can do to continue his legacy, I think that's really special. So, yep, we can move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the vote carries 8-0. Thank you, everyone. And we're gonna need Ashley again, but if the projector actually works. So I don't know if it was our June meeting, I believe, we had a parent approach the board during audience of citizens regarding pre-K transportation costs. And before the board fully ruled it out, I knew there were concerns around financial constraints, which is a reality that we do face on a regular basis and decisions we have to make. But we just figured, let's have Ashley prepare some information, share that with the board. Ashley, without your presentation, would you just like to talk
Sure.
us through the slides in front of you?
Okay, we'll get it up.
We'll get it out.
Sure,
but-
no problem. So the first thing that we need to consider is this was primarily for students who do not have transportation dictated through an IEP or 504 plan. So this was for what we call our community volunteers, I believe.
Can you read their slides upside down?
So
Anyway, keep going.
So it's for the community volunteers, and there are approximately 21 or about 21 students enrolled in the program right now. So how we calculated this is we calculated based on the 23-24 enrollment, so those 21 kids. We projected the cost for next year because it would be too late to implement for this
Right.
year. So we used the 24-25 rates, and then we also established a projection assuming that all 21 kids are going to need transportation to and from home. To and from home and school, rather. So it's kind of going for the shock value on this on the next slide, but I just have to explain it to you, I guess. So there's two ways that we could do it. We could do it with buses, and we could do it with vans.
Are you allowed to with buses with 3
The-
employees?
Yes, so I knew that question was going to come up. So yes, we can legally put a pre-K student on a bus. However, it's not advised because their size, they're very small, you can't see them. So if you put a pre-K student on a bus, you will need to have an aide. So you not only have the daily cost of the bus, but you also have the aide cost. So in talking to the transportation company, we would need 3 additional buses for the pre-K runs alone, and that's 1 bus per school district, and that goes back to route efficiency. You're not going to send a bus from the Griswold district to the Hubbard district and then back to Willard. So you would need a minimum of 3 buses. The daily rate for next year is $351.71 for the 181 student days, for an extended bus cost alone of $190,989.39. And then you would need to do the aid cost, so you'd need minimally 3 aides at their daily rate. And their rates are established by the hourly rate times the 4-hour minimum times the 180 days. And that's about $65,138.28 for a grand total for a bus if we choose the bus
And
route.
Nick, can you just advance the slide she's on, so even if we're looking at it upside down?
there we go.
There you go. Thank you.
So the total estimated cost for the bus route is $256,127.67. Now the other way we could do it is the way most parents would prefer is on a van. And with the vans, this one's really going to shock you guys. Yeah. So
756.
the way this works is because of the size or the age of the student, rather, all of the students would have to be in a 5-point harness just because legally they can't not be in one.
And then
when
that would essentially be taking money away from other students in the district or be added to the operation.
So we have a startup cost. If we were to take the van route, we would need to purchase 10 additional vans just for the pre-K route. And the reason why it's 10 is you can't fit more than two 5-point harnesses in one van. So you would only be transporting 2 kids per van. So that's an estimated startup cost based on our recent van bid that we received. Is just the standard van with all the wrapping and safety equipment that we have to install is about $43,000 times the 10. So the one-time startup cost, or initial startup cost rather, it's not really a one-time because you do cycle through them, is $430,000. And then we get to the driving cost or the van cost. So you'd need 10 drivers times the daily hourly rate, the minimum 4 hours, times the 180 days, which is $326,243 $243.40 for a grand total of $756,243.40 if we were to take the van route. So obviously the most cost-effective way would be through buses. However,
Could you go back to this slide with the buses?
yeah.
Sorry.
So even the 256,000 number, it is still a 0.5% on the impact of the overall budget for next year. If we were to go up, in no other categories, no staffing, and just to go up this transportation, for the bus alone, it would go up 0.5%. If we were to take the van route, just out of concerns that the kids are too little for a bus, then the budget would increase 1.5% off of just without any other contractual increases.
And this is
alone.
only for 21 students.
It's only for 21 students.
We are not required to do that.
Correct. So we're not required to do, to transport pre-K students unless they have an IEP or a 504. And yes, to Julia's question, this is less than 1% of the student population.
And so I remember at our June meeting, someone said, well, it'd be good to find out what the cost would be for the parents to give them another option. So based on my math, and it could be wrong, the vans for the parent would cost approximately $36,000 per student to transport the child. And for the bus, it would be approximately $12,000 per student. Correct? Or
The first year,
For
with
the
the
first year,
vans,
yeah.
because you have the
Right.
cost of the vans.
but the buses,
That's right at 12,000.
so if we divided that by 21 students, it's about $12,000 a kid to transport them. For something that's not required. So if parents wanted the choice of even adding it on, that's.
Correct. And the state reimbursement for non-public transportation, like some districts choose not to transport, but they will pay a stipend. That's capped out at $6,000
And
per
does that
student
even
per
apply
year.
for pre-K though?
It does not.
Okay.
Or in district,
Or in district, correct.
doesn't apply here at all.
Okay. So I don't remember who was interested in the price for parents in case something to talk about.
Well, I just think it's important to see numbers. I mean, you know, if the
Right.
question comes up, I mean, at least we're armed with more information to be able to relay. I mean, I do feel, and I wish there was a better way of doing it or a better solution, but, you know, doesn't seem like it is.
Any other questions or
And
comments?
again, like preschool, it's free, right? We're not, because my kids, years ago when they ran it, I didn't have to pay anything. I had to get them there and I'd pick them up, but I didn't have to pay the district anything. But if I was to enroll my child in a preschool, it would cost me money. So in a way, the parents are getting free, incredibly very good education, by the way, because our preschool, I think, is better than anybody out there, from experience. So
I'm learning.
it's incredible, but and it's an honor to be chosen. The 21 that are chosen, when one of mine was chosen for that reason, and the other one for the other reason. But it was an honor. Like, you wanted that lottery. Your people, like, well, how did you get in? This was always a question. It was so I not to, but I think they should be grateful that they are, and they don't have to participate. They can go somewhere else. Correct?
Correct.
Tracy, it's a great point. Both my kids were here as well, so we figured out how to get them.
Yes.
Do you think you'd pay $12,000 to transport them?
I sent them to a private school, so.
I just
So,
want to
like,
ask.
Even if they went to a private school, I mean, you still have to
Right, I
transport
mean,
them, so you're paying a tuition and you're also getting them.
To and from where they're going.
but I'm glad, thank you for
Yeah, no problem.
doing
Thank you.
all of
No
this
problem.
work to answer the questions.
No
You know,
problem.
that was a lot, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate this information. I'm honestly just taken aback about how expensive it is. And it's not, you know, I don't think it's shocking, like, that parents were interested in it, or even board members were interested in seeing it, but I think the number, it is what it is, and there's a reason why it is done this way. And I know I would not feel safe putting my 3 or 4-year-old on a school bus
Right. Yeah.
without,
Right.
I'd be flying all
being
around.
strapped in. Any other board members have anything they want to share or speak to about this? Thank you so much,
Yeah, no
Ashley.
problem.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for your input on this as well. And now I'm just going to turn it over to Brian to talk about the proposed dates for coffee.
Sure. In our meetings with the community engagement team, something I suggested was coffee with the superintendent, and I would love to have a Board of Education member or two that they'd like to attend. This will just give people an opportunity to meet face-to-face with us if they'd like. I selected dates. I can send it out in a Google Doc, and you can tell me what works. I tried to pick, either a morning at 7 to 8 or an afternoon 3:30 to 4:30. The times could even change if later is better on those dates. And I don't know if what the board thinks, but I'd love to have a board member meet with me, at least one, if available. If not, I'll meet by myself. We may get people that would like to come. It may be quick coffee, or I don't drink coffee, but it may be a quick meeting if no one decides to attend. So I don't know if there's any comment or thoughts on this. I know the community engagement team thought it was a good
Yeah.
opportunity to offer.
I forgot about that. We did talk about this. And it was all kind of a caveat of what we had discussed before COVID. The Community Engagement Committee, we reached out to some local businesses, and this is literally our first date was when we were shut down. So unfortunately, we didn't get to do this, but Arby's was the one that we had reached out to first, and we were gonna have coffee, and I don't remember what we called it. It was really cute. And Arby's was gonna supply the coffee and some cookies, and they were gonna put on the Board of Ed. You can meet, and could be as many of us want to show up, with Brian or just a couple of us. And we were gonna be there for an hour, and Arby's so we're getting people in the business, supporting the business, and they could talk to us. And we were gonna go do one a month into all the coffee places and stuff. And then, stuff happened, everything shut down. So this was just a different way of doing that, because at least it's a way that people can go and ask questions that maybe they don't want to come here and ask questions, or maybe email everyone or whatnot. And it's just a way to get to know Mr. Benigni and, ask anything he wants, and we'd be there supporting. So that way, with all these options of dates, we could just we talked about each person can maybe take one and whatnot. But that was our idea.
Do you have locations for this? So this is not gonna
This-
be here? This is
It
gonna
is
be out-
here.
oh, it is,
We're
okay.
not doing it out the.
I think it's a great
No
idea.
more Arby's.
I like the idea of
No
having
more
the morning
Arby's.
and the afternoon.
I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Will these dates be distributed all at once to the community?
I'll send up a Google sign-up sheet.
For
and
us.
then- and
For
then
us,
for
I
the
mean,
board.
No, I mean for the community.
They'll go to the community, then they'll send a reminder through school
Perfect.
messenger,
Yeah.
the beginning of the week.
Okay.
We'll send a reminder
I
out.
wonder if there's I was thinking I wonder if we could do a QR, something that maybe we could put when we do an article, so people could see.
Oh, sure. we could.
If it's even a QR code or I don't know, something to or somewhere where they can go to see at the end of all of our articles. Because at one time we said follow us on Facebook. What was the end of our articles years and years ago? But maybe something so the whole community could see the dates or be reminded each. I don't know. Just a thought.
Or even in the article, just putting our next
Right.
coffee is this date. I mean, it doesn't have to be all of them, but certainly.
And the other thought we discussed was, should we also have people sign in via Zoom?
Should we what?
People sign in through Zoom.
Oh.
Personally, I think you go in person.
Set up a meeting otherwise.
And that was a discussion, so we didn't.
I think you start with in person. You could always adapt from there.
Good.
I think you'll have to see what attendance is like, because some folks can't, not all working folks can get there at 7 a.m. and get to their jobs on time, or be out by 3:30 p.m. and come. So if they can join virtually, that might be make it more accessible to certain people.
And I'm definitely willing to adjust the times if earlier or later, whatever, people think is appropriate.
Okay, we don't need to take action on that, so Brian will send that out. And I believe that is it for our agenda this evening, correct? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
So motion by Adam, second by Melissa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So the meeting is adjourned at 7:26. Thank you guys for a wonderful meeting, and congratulations again, Jenna and Danielle.